everybody, welcome to Rachel's Reviews, and today we are talking about the latest film in the wizarding world. We're talking about Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore, and we've covered on this channel every single film in the Harry Potter world. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Richard Southworth is here. Thank you so much for coming and doing this.
That's fine. I'm glad to be here. It's been a while since we did a video together.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think if we've done one since Grindelwald. Maybe
We
was
did
that
Aladdin, the live action Aladdin. That was in 2019.
oh yeah. Well, in one of my favorite episodes I've ever done was our discussion on First Man. I thought that was a really good episode. Yeah. But yeah, we talked Crimes of Grindelwald with Hayden. We had on with that one, and but since it's been a while, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, my name is Richard. I'm kind of like a casual film fan. I do like sometimes I do like reviews on my blog as well as other things. And so me and Rachel have been corresponding, I think, since I started my blog like several years ago.
Yeah,
with a long
time. Yeah, since 2014, I think, or 2015.
Yeah, I'm a big Harry Potter fan as well. Like we did like a whole series reviewing the different Harry Potter films before the first Fantastic Beasts film came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an interesting experience. It was interesting to me because with the Harry Potter films, I mean, I had a good time talking with you and with Abby and Jeremy, but for some reason, those movies weren't as, I don't know, like I've talked about, for some reason, those movies weren't as fun to debate and talk about as compared to even other franchises like the bad Star Wars movies, or, you know, some bad superhero movies or things like that, or good, you know, bad or good. But I don't know, for some reason, the Harry Potter movies, I didn't feel like they were as like fun to kind of scrutinize in that kind of way like you do. They were more just sort of to be enjoyed.
Yeah, possibly because it just much of it is lifted from the books. They're generally quite faithful adaptations, apart from bits here and there.
Yeah, so maybe that's it.
Then it's just about how that gets translated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we got these Fantastic Beasts, and the first one I didn't care for. I think the problem has always been for me with these series is that I find Newt a tough character to really, I don't know, he's just, I find Newt would be, I feel like Newt would be much better as a supporting character than like your lead character from this franchise. And I think that it was a mistake to not have it centered around children, but maybe that's what the only thing they could do, because you're just going to get compared to Harry Potter if it's kids. But I don't know, like an adult story, I mean, there are a lot of problems with the scripts on both of the first and second, and even in this third one. But I don't know, there was just something that was not quite there for me in this franchise from the beginning.
Well, yeah, I think it could have been better if it had focused more on the Fantastic Beasts, and possibly it could have had some Grindelwald stuff in the background.
Right.
Like maybe like some things, some isolated incidents related to that Newt had to deal with, but his main business was regarding the Fantastic Beasts, and he could have been a better hero in that regard. But Crimes of Grindelwald makes it pretty clear he doesn't really want to be involved in this particular conflict that they've chosen to focus the series around, and so Dumbledore has to kind of strong arm him into it.
Yeah, and they set up all that American wizardry before the first movie, and then they hardly did anything with any of that.
No, because they've only like set the first film in America, and then they went to France for the second one.
Yeah.
So basically, it's, you know, so I think most of the information we get from it is what J.K. Rowling puts on Pottermore.
Well, what did you think of the first Fantastic Beasts movie?
I thought it was okay. I mean, I was disappointed in that it wasn't as good as any of the Harry Potter films. it kind of fell just on like the positive side of the line. I think I gave it 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
It's like nice to experience that world from this different angle the first time out.
Yeah, I think I was right on the edge as well, but I did go rotten on it on the first one. But it seemed like it had potential to be a interesting series if they were, what they were going to be doing. And then we got Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yes,
Yeah. I know there are people that defend this movie. Some people listening to this program will be defending it. I can't defend it. I thought it was just a complete disaster. I was so confused of what was going on. And when I got out of the screening, I was like, well, I guess Harry Potter people will like that, because I certainly didn't like it. And I felt it was just so muddled and so messy and stupid. I just did not like. And then it seems like it was actually the reverse from what I thought, that the people that were big, a lot of the people that were big Harry Potter fans hated it even more than I did.
yes, absolutely. I definitely hated it. Like when I left the cinema, I was both angry and I was laughing at how bad it was.
Yeah.
Just so ridiculous. The story was just all over the place, and these quite blatant departures from the established canon, like having like the fact they brought in McGonagall teaching at Hogwarts at a time when she shouldn't even have been born.
Yeah.
Probably just to connect with the Harry Potter nostalgia.
Yeah. I know I had a friend who was really excited for it, really looking forward to it. And she was like, ooh, this is not good. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, every franchise has their terrible movies, but this one just was a struggle to me.
Yeah,
I found it like actually stressful, because it was just so there's an old Ask a Ninja thing that he did on the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. He's like, they just keep adding new plot lines. Literally the last line of the movie is a new plot line. And I'm like, that is Crimes of Grindelwald. It's just instead of finishing any of them, they just keep adding more plot lines.
you just can't keep track. You can't remember where all the characters are supposed to be at any particular moment. But which is pretty much how a lot of the later Pirates of the Caribbean films are.
Right. Yeah. It just gets so convoluted. And then the whole thing with Credence being Dumbledore's brother was so stupid, and like swapping the babies on the boat, and it was so dumb. I really didn't like it.
And then we get to, obviously we're going to talk about this later, but then this week Credence didn't really feel
Yeah, then they retcon that.
Yeah.
And then they have this whole thing with Grindelwald. I don't even, people are gonna be like, you're using the wrong words. I don't know. He's like, there's a gathering, he's trying to get them on his side, and he shows images of the Nazis, and like real Nazis, like Hitler. And you're just like, what? Now that's part of the wizarding world. And if that's true in this world, then they should have been doing a lot more to stop the Nazis and the concentration camps. And so where were all the wizards? It just invites this line of questioning that was completely unnecessary and didn't need to be in official Harry Potter canon.
Yeah, I mean, like if they ever got that far, we could have had some proper exploration of just how the Muggle and the Wizarding Wars intertwine, and whether the wizards were doing anything while everything was going on in Europe at that time. Because I'm not sure we're going to get to that point, but it would have been very interesting in potential. But like I say, this what Grindelwald shows in that it doesn't really correlate with what we know about Harry Potter magic.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then they take the character. I think most people liked Queenie in the first movie, And then I just felt like they completely ruined her character. I mean, they try to redeem her in this third one, but I think that she's kind of irredeemable of what she does. I mean, she puts a spell on Jacob and basically like uses him because she doesn't want to let him go, but that doesn't excuse it. Like, talk about agency and consent and all this stuff. And then she basically becomes a Nazi by the end of the movie.
I mean, if it can't seem like she was joining Grindelwald because Grindelwald had convinced her she would be allowed to marry Jacob under his rule, even though that's the entire opposite of his agenda.
Yeah, it made no sense. He's not gonna be in favor of Jacob in any way.
Oh, he definitely shows that in this film, doesn't he?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, did you feel that way, that she was kind of irredeemable by that point of what she'd done?
I wouldn't say irredeemable, but if she was going to be redeemed, it would require more than what we got.
Right.
Like, she didn't really get enough screen time and enough development to really justify it. I mean, I thought the acting by Alison Sudol, who played Queenie, was pretty good in this film, because she did seem very, very conflicted in quite an understated way. But she just didn't have enough screen time to really make the redemption believable.
What I would have done with Queenie is I wouldn't have had her become a Nazi. And then I also would have had her become the ancestor to Luna. Wouldn't that make sense? They're very similar.
I'm not sure Luna showed that kind of the same kind of power that Queenie has, but I think in terms of attitude, there are similarities there.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of similar archetypes.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I would have done. That would have been kind of fun. But no, they chose not to do that. But yeah, it was just so messy, and I just did not care for Crimes of Grindelwald at all. I'm with you. And we had a fun conversation about it, but I wasn't even going to, to cover this one, but there were this new one, but I'd heard some good things. And then I also had the chance to interview Kathy Cloves, who's the wife of Steve Cloves, who they brought back for this third one, thank goodness. And to me, at least, that did make a difference. Like, you could tell that there was a quality writer that knows screenplays, I think, behind this one compared to the other two.
Yeah, the story felt a lot more focused.
Yeah.
It went all those plot lines going all over the place. It was moving in a certain direction. You kind of knew, for the most part, you knew where all the characters were. Yeah.
So if people want to listen, I'll put a link down. You can listen to my interview with Kathy. We talk mostly about Hallmark movies, but we talk a little bit about the Harry Potter, her husband writing the Harry Potter movies, and the Secrets of Dumbledore. I mean, overall, I guess, what did you think about this latest entry?
Well, I think if you frame it in like Disney terms, it felt like the equivalent of Bolt, in that there's nothing especially good or especially bad about it. It just is, basically. So I gave it 2.5 out of 5 on my blog. But it was definitely an improvement on Crimes of Grindelwald, but that is quite a low bar.
Well, I struggled when I was writing my review, that how much credit am I giving it for the fact that it's better than what I thought was practically unwatchable in the second movie. I don't know. I do think that it's more fun, has more sort of blockbustery, epic, fun moments than the other two. Again, not a high bar, but I mean, my score isn't that different than yours. I gave it a 6 out of 10, which would be a 3 out of 5. Under that thing. So I did go, it's the first one of these Fantastic Beasts that I went fresh on, partly because I think that anybody who's still invested in this world will enjoy it, we'll get something out of it. And I don't know, I just had enough fun that it was worth a recommendation to me, but it definitely has its flaws, that's for sure. I think that they did the best they could to dig themselves out of that pit.
Yeah, you can tell they were trying to improve on that. I think I kind of wonder if you say like you're maybe giving the film a bit of credit for being better than Crimes of Grindelwald. I was kind of feeling like maybe Crimes of Grindelwald was still leaving a bad taste in my mouth. Kind of like watching Justice League after watching Batman v Superman. Like I was
Right.
still associating the characters with the last movie that I didn't really enjoy watching.
Right.
Well, I felt there were fun moments here and there. I thought the first and second acts at least were a bit dull a lot of the time. But it was only like in the third act that it started. They kind of knew what was happening, and I think and things got quite a bit stronger. Because like one of the issues I had with the script was that when it basically felt like we were being dropped straight into the story that was already in progress, and so it wasn't really clear what the characters were setting out to do. You know, they're saying we're the team that's going to stop Grindelwald, but and you just think, well, stop him from doing what, and B, how are you going to do it? It's just a bit of it's all a bit of a myth history, and so that makes it a little bit harder to follow and get invested, at least at the beginning.
Well, I felt like they needed to do a better job of explaining this whole election. I thought the election was really confusing, and we get that especially in the third act, because they're saying, "Oh, we need to let the people decide. We need to let the people decide," but then they have this magical creature that actually decides.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't. But I guess like some of the things with Grindelwald were like that. I supposed to be mirroring the rise of Nazism. We're like getting popular support horse and bullying the other parties until finally the actual government and gives either Hitler or Grindelwald power.
Well, and and especially it all starts in Germany.
Yeah, exactly.
That was definitely.
But you are right. They say that the people are going to decide, and then we'll let this chillin. I think is that how you pronounce it? Chillin, I think it's called.
Yeah.
We're going to let that thing decide instead.
Yeah, it was weird. And a creature that seemingly can be fairly easily manipulated.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want that to decide. But it starts out with them finding this Chillin in these are the sort of goons of Grindelwald, with including Credence, find the Chillin that is given birth, and then they kill the mother, and then they bring the baby, when it turns out there was actually two. They were actually twins.
Yeah.
And then we meet Grindelwald, and they want the Chillin to help them tell the future.
It did seem that way, like when there's like a picture that forms in the blood after he kills it. And that was really like a brief glimpse of that, so it wasn't quite clear what he was seeing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Dumbledore, I think, says in a later scene, Grindelwald can see flashes of the future, which is why they have to structure their plan around that.
Well, and the power of the Chillin becomes part of him and who he is.
It wasn't. No, that wasn't really clear. You can't. I think there's like when we get to the point where he's using the Chillin in the election, you think it was that his plan all along? Oh, is it that he had to kill it and then Britain? Like the way he brings it back as like his own puppet. I guess that kind of mirrors the use of the Inferi in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. You remember how Voldemort has all these living corpses guarding his Horcrux in the lake.
Oh yeah.
This big swarm of creatures that come out and attack Harry.
Because he basically takes the Chillin that he's killed, and he creates a fake.
Yeah, it basically comes back to, it's not really alive. It comes back as a puppet.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like. So the same concept.
So that's how he's able to trick the election.
Yeah.
Which isn't really an election. It was weird. So what do we feel about Mads Mikkelsen?
I felt he was more believable than Johnny Depp. Like we don't learn that much about Grindelwald's personality in the books, but you kind of think that to be the kind of person who could like charm Dumbledore, or that definitely wasn't the kind of character that Johnny Depp portrayed him as. Mm. It was just so hard to take him seriously with the look that they went for. That was just ridiculous. Whereas Mads Mikkelsen looks much more dignified.
Yeah, and they have like more chemistry. Like you believed that they had been in love, were in love, I think.
Yeah.
in this
Like I
one.
was like,
I wouldn't have believed that with Johnny Depp.
no. I'd be like the first scene is where you get Dumbledore and Grindelwald talking in this kind of, I guess it's like this interdimensional, the weird interdimensional thing they were doing with the restaurant.
Yeah, that
And
cafe.
yeah, no, I was hoping they'd like go into a bit more detail, maybe get into each other's heads there with like a proper conversation. But that was a bit of a letdown, just talking more about how like I used to be in love with you, and Grindelwald say I'm gonna burn their world down.
Yeah,
Like,
and
just,
people saying, oh, that this is like a victory for representation, for LGBTQ representation. Come on. I mean, they do have they have the blood pack, and Dumbledore says that he was in love with him, with Grindelwald. That's it. That's all it is for the whole movie.
it's just it is pretty understated.
Yeah, understated. Yeah. So we get to meet, and maybe we had seen him in the previous, I don't remember, but we have Newt and his brother Theseus.
Yeah, he was in the last film. Yeah,
He was in Grindelwald. Okay.
When he was engaged to Lisa Lestrange, who died.
Oh, forgot that. I thought that he was pretty dreamy. I liked him. Callum Turner is the actor's name. I enjoyed every time he came on screen. I was like, oh yeah.
He's quite a good contrast to Newt. Obviously, he's more a bit more stuck up.
Right.
He's kind of like Percy from the Weasleys compared to like Ron or Fred or George.
Mm. And so they create this little fellowship, I guess, for lack of a better word, with Eulalie Hicks, Yusuf Lama, and which, I mean, J.K. Rowling has come under criticism for her names. I think that is true here. Not the best name, but yeah. And then Jacob, they recruit Jacob, and they give Jacob a wand, which I'm not really sure why. I mean, what does Jacob have to add to this quest? I mean, maybe they're hoping that he will help bring Queenie back, or I don't know. I don't really understand. Like, he doesn't have any powers. He doesn't have any particular skills. Why do they need Jacob? And he has no training on the wand.
Yeah, because they never explain what the wand is actually for. I think they mentioned it's made of snake wood, which I don't understand the relevance of that. And I think the only time that the wand seems to be used for anything is like when he's pointing it at Grindelwald, and then Lally seems to like use it as a conduit for making the big storm in the room. But it's not Jacob himself. It doesn't appear to be Jacob himself doing that, so it's not at all clear what that wand is supposed to be for.
Yeah, it was his whole role in all of this, and then the fact that they had him end up with Queenie in the end didn't really work for me, because again, I feel like Queenie has been kind of irredeemable of what she's done and the way she treated him in particular. Yeah.
But the way she, like, in that final scene where she's just immediately gone back to the way she was before, like no guilt or no apparent guilt or anything like that. And shouldn't it still be illegal for them to be getting married? I thought the point of them leaving America in the second film was because wizards and muggles couldn't get married in America at that time.
That's true. And I mean, why would you want to be with somebody who literally took you against your will for months and months and months, had you under a spell?
Yeah, exactly. like with Voldemort's parents.
Yeah. So Theseus ends up getting arrested in Germany, and then Newt ends up going to rescue Theseus from the jail. And I thought that this whole sequence was the most fun of the whole movie with the scorpions.
It did seem like they were kind of dragging out the whole Newt doing a funny pose bit.
Yeah,
saying how long they could keep that going for. But I think there was a decent bit of tension with like the big scorpion in the pit.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to avoid that.
Yeah. And I don't know, I just thought it was fun, the getting him out and the peril and the adventure of it all. And I mean, that's kind of what you want in these types of blockbusters.
You do need to get those fantastic beasts in there as well, since it's the title of the film.
Right. Yeah, I
And they
mean,
did-
and that has been so disappointing because there's really been very few. I mean, this one you do have some beasts with the chilla and everything like that, and but we don't even ever get Newt writing his book.
no. And he's still got his Niffler and his Bowtruckle who do get to actually do something in the same scene.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
think it was quite funny that kind of slow motion thing where the Niffler looks like he's going to catch the Bowtruckle and he's actually grabbing for the coins.
Mm,
He still loves those shiny objects.
right. Yeah. And so we have, again, talking about this election, you have Vincencia Santos and Lou Tao, and they had the election, but then the person who is elected has to be found worthy by the Chillin,
Yeah.
which I think is weird.
I want think about the chilling. Possibly it is, but possibly they were originally going to let a public vote decide, and then it does come as a surprise when they pull the chilling out. So maybe that they decided they should use it once one becomes available, if that's what's traditionally used in the past. So maybe that was the idea. That this was that was like the primary option, and like a public vote was a secondary option.
Yeah, but it really backfires. I mean, because Grindelwald is able to use the fake Chillin in order to get him to be approved, and he wins the election despite having not actually won the election. What?
Yeah, because because you're right, because you can't. It is a bit weird how he can't how the Chillin is supposed to bow to a person who is pure of heart, and then when it bows to Grindelwald, he's immediately saying, "Let's go to war against the Muggles, kill them all." Really thinking,
Yeah.
okay, how does that work?
Yeah, he uses the black magic to get the dead Chillin to bow before him, and so then he wins. And everybody seems like the people are like cheering and stuff like that when they announce that he's the winner, which is weird because if they didn't vote for him, why would they be cheering?
Well, it does seem like he has some public support, like in the scene where he's in the car. He seems to have a lot of support from the people there, and that's why he's eventually absolved of his crimes by the German minister. I think he's the German minister, Vogel, and they're allowed to stand for election. And all these people are cheering for him after he's won because they obviously support his idea about Muggles. And then after that, when that result has been rescinded, and Santos gets chosen by the Chillin instead, we don't hear a word out of any of those people. They're like, oh, okay, we'll just forget about that Muggle war then. It's all right. We'll go do something else.
Yeah, the whole election was just, it didn't work. It didn't make sense. It was confusing. We have this whole thing also with Newt's assistant, who I thought for sure she was going to end up being a villain. I really felt that, and just the way that she was acting and the way that but she really wasn't. She was just kind of there. And she ends up getting 6 of Newt's suitcases made. And that's how they're able to hide the twin Chillin. Is they've got all these different briefcases going all over the place. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I had 4. There's actually a YouTuber called Movie Flame who does a lot of videos on Harry Potter, and his idea for was Bunty was actually Tina using Polyjuice Potion.
Oh.
Explain A, why Tina barely shows up in the trailers, and B, why Bunty seems to be acting quite differently from the brief scene we had of her in Crimes of Grindelwald when she was in Newt's basement helping look after his creatures. And the movie did seem like it was going in that direction when Newt kind of just gives this vague excuse about Tina being too busy to be there. It really does seem like you do think that Tina is maybe the wild card and she's doing something in the background and it's going to become relevant in the 3rd act. And there seems to be this mix of Bunty acting that way and still acting like the puts upon assistant who has a crush on Newt. And then ultimately that didn't have any payoff, and Tina really isn't in it very much. We see her we see her briefly at the American headquarters, and then she turns up at the end, so she really doesn't have any role.
She must have Catherine Waterston must have had another commitment or something.
Maybe.
Or maybe COVID or something. There must have been some reason why she wasn't in the movie at all. Hardly at all.
Yeah, there was a bit. It just did seem like they were going down that route. That it would possibly have some kind of hidden role, and then that just didn't end up happening.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if I could see anything on the Wikipedia about it, but I don't see it. But it felt like it felt weird that that
Like
she was literally just a cameo.
yeah, like another reason they didn't bring Nagini back was because the actress was pregnant. But I don't know anything about why they didn't have Catherine Waterston being.
Good, because that was so cringe. The Nagini
Yeah,
plot in Grindelwald, that was bad.
yeah, that was just another problem with that film because that was just completely pointless. There was no reason for Nagini to be there.
Mhm. Yeah, so we also have Credence is sent by Grindelwald to assassinate Dumbledore. And I don't really, I mean, at this point, he's supposed to be his brother, I guess.
They said at the end of the second film that he was actually Aurelius Dumbledore and Albus's brother, which
Right.
which I thought seemed like a really terrible, terrible going against canon at that point, because surely if Dumbledore had another brother, it would have come up in the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
And
And
so
then there,
so the revelation you get that he's actually Aberforth's illegitimate son is slightly better, but
yeah.
not by much. You kind of think maybe that would you kind of think that maybe Aberforth wouldn't want to mention that in front of Harry, or Albus wouldn't mention it, but it still is quite a stretch.
Yeah. Well, and also, why did we go through all of that misery with the baby switching?
Yeah,
It's just gonna be
we still don't know how he ended up there on
right.
that road.
Yeah. And so, but he's going to assassinate Dumbledore, and if he's like, it almost seems like Credence is almost controlled by Grindelwald at a certain point. But he and Dumbledore kind of fight it out, and that's when we get the revelation that he's the illegitimate son of Aberforth, and so that was.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that scene was weird because after, we got this strange other world fitting with Dumbledore and Grindelwald in the cafe, and then we get this whole Doctor Strange style fight scene with Dumbledore and Credence fighting in some separate dimension, and there's been nothing like that in the Harry Potter books or in the previous Fantastic Beasts films.
Mm.
I mean, just the closest thing I can think of is like Harry and Dumbledore having the discussion with each other in the kind of alternate King's Cross at the end of Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
And in that situation, Harry is like in the area between life and death. Mm-hmm. So possibly there's some kind of void there, but this is nothing like that.
Well, and it is true too that something happened to the fashion sense of everybody at Hogwarts in between the Fantastic Beasts period and the Harry Potter period, that everyone just kind of gave up on tailored suits.
Yeah, they did tend to change quite a bit between films anyway, didn't they? Like I remember how everybody had long hair in Goblets of Fire.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about Credence's look in this film was that he kind of looked like Snape with his long dark hair.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Dumbledore liked Snape.
Mm-hmm.
To remind him.
None of these characters have the layers that the characters in Harry Potter had. Where you had. I think one of the best things about Harry Potter is those books is that you have complex characters who are flawed, that Harry as a character has to forgive Dumbledore because he's flawed. He has to forgive Snape, certainly by the end. He has to forgive his parents that are flawed. They're interesting characters. They're layered characters. And in this case, these characters just don't have that.
Yeah, well, possibly J.K. Rowling was just been so used to being able to create characters in a book where she can get inside their heads. There's lots of room to flush them out. But it was a bit more difficult to make up characters for a film where there's far less room, and try to develop them in the same way.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I mean, doing a screenplay, not the same as writing a novel. And So then we have this whole scene where Jacob is basically tortured by Grindelwald,
Yeah.
and then Credence, Queenie, and Newt expose Grindelwald and tell the people that it's this fake Chillin. And again, they didn't do enough to kind of redeem Queenie, in my eyes, at least. It was like
No.
all of a sudden she's not a Nazi anymore.
No, there just wasn't enough room. There's room for it.
Yeah. And so then the real Chillin that they bring, bows before Dumbledore and Santos. And so that means that he won the election, which is, again, so weird.
Yeah. They're not quite sure about, like, they kind of mentioned about how the Chillin bows to you if you're pure of heart. And then suggest that nobody really is. So possibly it's bowing to the closest equivalent. Because I mean, like Dumbledore, as we know him at that time, does seem basically pure of heart, but then he still have a lot of guilt inside him for his previous dealings with Grindelwald, and the reason he said in the books that the reason he didn't become Minister for Magic because he felt he couldn't be trusted with power, which would suggest that he at least believes there is a little bit of darkness inside him.
Right, that's true. Well, and so then there's this whole fight between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, and evidently because Grindelwald had Credence try to kill Dumbledore, he broke the blood pact, but wouldn't there be more consequences for breaking the blood pact? It doesn't seem like there is, but it allows Dumbledore to at least be able to fight.
Yeah, because the explanation again was that Grindelwald was trying to kill and Dumbledore was trying to defend. That possibly because they were going against each other in an indirect way instead of like directly attacking each other. Then maybe that was a loophole that allowed the pact to be broken without killing them both.
Yeah, and then Credence is accepted by Aberforth as a member of the Dumbledore family.
He seems to be dying. They kind of indicate that he's going to die because of the obscurus inside him.
Oh yeah. And then we end with Jacob and Queenie getting married, and then Tina shows up, and Dumbledore's watching from the outside. And again, we talked about it a lot, but that it just didn't. I would not want to marry Queenie if I was Jacob.
No. If you are right, it is hard to trust someone who's first magically drugged you and then join the dark side.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
But then with the ending, like how we end on Dumbledore rather than Newt, don't we? Like you were saying at the beginning, how Newt works better as a side character, and the way this film treats this ending, it does seem more like it is called The Secrets of Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm.
But it is more like treating Dumbledore more as the central character in how it ends, isn't it?
Yeah, and Dumbledore walking off on the street. I really feel like I don't think we're getting 4 and 5 of this franchise. Do you feel that way?
It did feel like Warner Brothers were playing it safe, thinking just in case this film doesn't work out after the last two, and we will have an option where we're not going to end it on a cliffhanger, and we've basically tied up the loose ends, and the Harry Potter fans know what happens anyway. Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald in 1945.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem I have with prequels. I'm not typically a fan of prequels.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think they could have done to make this series better?
Yeah.
What would you have done?
I'd have like detached it more from if we're going to have a prequel in terms of like following Newt Scamander, then I would have like detached it more from the main series. Like maybe had some like little hints of like stuff we recognized from Harry Potter in the background, and maybe things with Grindelwald could be affecting what Newt has to do. But I think I would have more of a focus on his studies in magizoology, and possibly going on various adventures and possibly trying to change people's attitudes about the various beasts. Just because I think you could make quite a good story about his scientific career if he has to face various opposition for his views, and and struggles in studying and trying to protect these rare animals. You could make some good stories out of that.
Yeah, I think you could have had it just be a sweet, like basically kind of a love story, and him being this zoologist, and you didn't need to make it convoluted in this big epic story or whatever. And that would probably have been hard for the fan base, but I think in the end it would have been more satisfying than what they came up with. Do you agree that there's just something about this world that's better with child protagonists?
With the kind of story that we got in Harry Potter, then yeah, because they're able to like learn about the world in the same way that we are, and also because they're children, that makes them more vulnerable and the odds are more stacked against them. If we already know about the world, then it's then I feel it's probably more okay to have adult protagonists, but maybe less able to really like get engaged with and sympathize with them unless they're done in the right way.
Yeah. So what did you think of all of the production design, the costuming? Is calling out what I think is the costume, and she's amazing. But what did you think of just how the movie looked?
I didn't really like how this movie looked. It felt very bland to me. Like the way they chose to make most of the scenes in Germany. This is quite grey, colourless look. And even when it did have like colour with spells being fired into the air, it felt it didn't feel especially magic, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was okay with it. I thought it was all right, but yeah, not like nothing that was too dazzling or anything that stood out. And I do think that the music was really good. James Newton Howard.
Yeah, you had some hints as well in like the old Harry Potter John Williams theme in there, didn't he? What they call Hedwig's theme. Like I think like when they get back to Hogwarts, you hear it there, and then in that bit where they look in the fake cases and all these books and baked goods go flying out.
Yeah.
And there's some old Harry Potter music there as well. And I did actually like that scene because it felt more like some kind of more wild magic of the kind that we saw in the earlier films. A little bit more fun.
Yeah. It's definitely a mixed bag. There's no doubt about it. I overall had fun with it. Again, it was probably benefited by low expectations, but it is what it is. I think that they hopefully, if they do make any more, that they will keep using Steve Close, because it was a definite improvement for sure from Harry Potter.
I think as well. Have you actually read any of J.K. Rowling's like other books? Because she has been working on other books besides the screenwriting.
I haven't. Have you?
I've read her crime novels, which she writes under the name Robert Galbraith, and again, but she did the first two novels in that series. She didn't they weren't that good, but she has got better as time goes along. So maybe she gets a chance to do some more screenwriting. She could improve as she gets more experience.
Yeah. So I asked on Twitter, I said, what's better, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child or the Fantastic Beasts movie and movies? And I got some different reactions. I have not seen the actual Broadway production. Have you seen the Cursed Child?
I haven't seen it either. I've read the script.
Yeah, me too. It wasn't a great script, but I've heard that they do a lot of fun things with it in the staging, and I think I won a Tony. Yeah, because
firstly I probably like Cursed Child better just based on the script, because I can't accept it as canon. There are certain aspects of it I definitely can't accept as actually happening, but chiefly Voldemort having a daughter.
Yeah, that was really stupid. But I did like the relationship between the two boys.
Yeah, that's probably the highlight.
In Cursed Child, and I'm a sucker for time travel, so I had kind of fun with that. It's not very well written, but
it overall is a more interesting story than any of the Fantastic Beasts films, I feel.
Yeah, it's not as convoluted as those films. Well, I asked and I got a lot of different responses. I thought it was kind of fun. Sharner, she says Fantastic Beasts is trash. Tammy says Fantastic Beasts for sure, and that's just the first one. Christian Paystrip, he says Fantastic Beasts, at least I enjoyed the first one, whereas Cursed Child and Crimes of Grindelwald both made me miserable. Ryan says, I'm going to have to say Cursed Child. I saw it during previews in New York City, and regardless of the rough plot, it was absolutely magical. I laughed and cried and still think often about some of the effects used on stage. Without ever seeing the iconic castle train or hearing any musical themes from the films during the show, it's undoubtedly still Wizarding World. I can't vouch for the shorter new version, but the original is one of my top theater experiences of all time. Emma Weltner says Fantastic Beasts, what it's lacked in writing makes up for in cute animals. Adam Suckling says definitely Harry Potter. Crooked Table Production says I've only read Cursed Child and seen the first Fantastic Beast, but for me it's definitely the former. Secrets of Dumbledore says Fantastic Beasts, and then Atomic Verse says that's tough choice. I haven't seen the Broadway show, but of everything I heard, it does seems like it's the best of the two, although it tries heavily to retcon some stuff. So yeah, some different opinions there, but it does feel like it's a shame we couldn't have just had Harry Potter, because I remember when I finished the last book, The Deathly Hallows, I felt like, wow, she did it. She just ended this perfect. It was, that was my feeling at the time of like, I just felt so satisfied. I felt like all the characters had such a satisfying ending. It was very moving. It had deeper themes of forgiveness and loss and all that. And I felt like the movies did a good job. I really enjoyed that part 2, Deathly Hallows Part 2. I didn't love Deathly Hallows Part 1, but nevertheless, they were all pretty solid movies. And it was just like so lucky that you had this kind of unblemished franchise. Of course, now J.K. Rowling has gone on to blemish herself a lot, but I don't know. It's just, I just kind of wish that we could have just kept it as it was when that last book came out. It was such a good ending.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you have a franchise like that, people are always asking for more. Sometimes what you get is just, it's enough.
Yeah.
Like I say, like even a Cursed Child, even if it has good things about it, I just see it as fan fiction,
Right.
rather than canon.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's just a shame that we can't just, you got to admire when you do have those authors or directors that are willing to just say it's done. I'm moving away. I'm not going back to that property, because I'm sure the temptation is great, but I can't think of that many examples where it's really paid off.
No.
Maybe something like Blade Runner 2049. A lot of people loved that. But those are few and far between when it works, just to come back to a franchise like that. But anyway, it is what it is. It's an interesting franchise. So let us know what you think, what you liked, what you didn't like. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And thanks so much for doing this, Richard. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
So where can people follow you, your blog, and you on social media, everything like that?
I'm on Twitter on RJ_Southworth, or you can see my blog at velociraptor256@wordpress.com.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll put a link to our Harry Potter playlist where you can listen to all our back episodes on Harry Potter in the description. So make sure you check that out. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. That helps so much. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store. Take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.